exactly 9 o'clock.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Michael Harrington. Former President Donald Trump held another Save America rally, this time in Warren, Michigan, last night. He says voters need to make their voice heard at the ballot box or Democrats will win.
You know, they never get down to, like, how do we make our country great? It's always like, let's investigate everybody, let's do... And they're the ones that should be investigated because they're the crooked people. Every freedom-loving American needs to understand the time to stand up to this growing tyranny is right now. You don't have time to waste.
He was stumping on behalf of various GOP candidates, including Governor and Attorney General. Rescuers still plucking survivors off of Hurricane Island-battered Pine Island and others around Florida. The state's death toll has risen sharply up to 47 now. It's feared it will go higher. Many people remain in the dark after the big storm slammed the state. In the wake of Ian's devastation, Town Hall News and our companion network, SRN News, is partnering with Christian nonprofit relief agency Food for the Poor to send emergency supplies to victims in Florida and the Carolinas. More information available at srnnews.com. The Danish Energy Agency says one of two ruptured natural gas pipelines of the Baltic Sea has stopped leaking.
The agency says it's been informed by the company operating the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that pressure appears to have stabilized in the pipeline, which runs from Russia to Germany. It adds this indicates the leaking of gas has now stopped. The underseas blast that damaged the pipelines this week had led to a huge methane leak. Vladimir Putin accusing the West of sabotage, a charge vehemently denied by the United States. Jason Walker reporting.
And a federal agency has given a Texas oil company approval to repair a year-old damaged pipeline. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You take the time to really get to know your body, you find that the root causes of its aches and pains are usually simple. The older we get, the more exercise we undertake, and the more injuries we sustain, the more inflammation our bodies suffer from. It's so simple. And my answer to that pain is Relief Factor, which I discovered years ago and take every single day to great effect. It helps the body to fight off inflammation, and I've never found anything that worked better in my life. I can't recommend it enough. 70% of the more than 500,000 people who have tried Relief Factor end up ordering more. That's because it works for them the way it works for me. Isn't it time for you to get out of pain? Your first step to becoming pain-free should be to order the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. ReliefFactor.com.
California Governor Gavin Newsom has approved one of the most contentious bills before him this year.
It's a measure aiding efforts by farm workers to unionize that was backed by President Biden and Vice President Harris. Their support put Newsom in a difficult political position after his office previously criticized the proposal, but Newsom negotiated upcoming changes before signing the bill.
Correspondent Jeremy House. The new law Newsom signed gives farm workers new options to vote to unionize beyond at physical polling places. Proponents say it'll help protect workers from union busting and other intimidation. Owners of farms say it lacks necessary safeguards to prevent fraud. According to the Turkish Defense Ministry, its warplanes neutralized 23 Kurdish militants in a raid 90 miles inside of Iraq today. The ministry usually refers to killed militants as, quote, neutralized. News and analysis at townhall.com. Students walk out of Farmington High School in Minnesota last week in protest of a leaked email.
School administrators were discussing the backlash they were getting after ditching homecoming king and queen and replacing the titles with the gender-neutral term homecoming royalty. In an email, Assistant Principal Laura Wagner told staff, quote, "This would be a great time to use your straight white privilege to reassure and support students and staff in doing what they believe is right for our school community," end quote. Well, that email was leaked. Parents and students say it's another example of the school district's woke agenda. Tasha Stevens reporting.
Today is Sunday, October the 2nd. It's the 275th day of 2022. There are just 90 days left in the old year. On this date in history, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a serious stroke at the White House and was paralyzed on one side. On this date in 1959, The Twilight Zone debuted. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This Atmos Weather Report is being brought to you by Summit Technology Group. Summit Technology Group provides advanced technical solutions to the ever-evolving broadcast industry. More information is available online at summittechgroup.com.
Your area conditions. Currently 48 degrees in Rome. Here is your WKAL 1450 AM, 103.3 FM Utica Rome Metro weather forecast for Sunday, the 2nd day of October. I'm meteorologist Charles Dixon. Mostly clear in Rome, and good morning to listeners in Oneida, where it is currently mostly clear and 48 degrees. Getting down to 33 overnight tonight. Monday's high will be in the low 60s. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures in the mid-60s on Tuesday. Sunny times of clouds and sun. I'm meteorologist Charles Dixon on 1450 AM 103.3 FM. WKAL, more stimulating talk radio.
If you are a small business owner, it is time to answer these questions. Is your website mobile friendly? Does it look modern and pop? Can it be found on the first page of Google? If you answer no to any of these questions, or worse, you don't have a website, it is time to call our friends at Thayer 2 Design. They'll work with you to customize a website to fit your needs and help you grow. Websites start as low as $400, and yes, you heard that right. A great looking website doesn't have to cost you thousands of dollars. Give them a call today at 315-875-7989 or visit them online at RomeNYWebDesign.com.
This is Coach Big C, and you're listening to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch on WKAL 1450. Well, it's a big show. Oh, it's a big bad show tonight. Oh, baby, come on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a big show. Oh, crank it up. Turn on them lights.
Welcome to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. Thanks for making us part of your Sunday morning here. We got Cody in today. We got Coach Medicis in. Pags is out today. The Statman is actually out today. Statman's going to visit a buddy of his. So, Statman, if you're listening, we'll catch you in here next Sunday. We got a special show for you today. I'm hoping we get as many callers, and I'll try to take as many as I can. Unfortunately, this past week, we lost a giant here. If you want to talk Mount Rushmores of coaches in Rome, Coach Tom Myslinski passed away after a long, courageous battle with cancer. And I had posted on Facebook this week for any former players, friends, family, whoever wanted to call in and share some Coach Mize stories. Give us a call. We'll take as many as we can throughout the show. 315-337-9525. We'll talk our college football here this morning. And then the second part of the show, we'll have Coach DeCola call in, talk some RFA football. We'll recap the Elmira game, and then they'll play next Saturday. And Coach Medicis just confirmed for a shortage of officials, they had to move a game, so they'll play next Saturday right here at RFA Stadium against CBA. Did you guys know Coach Mize much? I know, Cody, you're too young, so you didn't know Coach Mize, but did you ever have any interactions with Coach?
No.
So
just a lot of stories.
Coach was probably the backbone of the program. I mean, the great teams in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And one of the things you always heard about Rome was how strong and tough the line was. And I say this all the time because when I played, people think that I had a really big offensive line. And I might have said this on the air a few times. My center was 170 pounds. My two guards were 180 pounds. But my tackles were 270, 280. The tackles were. But the guys inside, the 180-pound kids, were about as strong as a bull on the line, and it was the weight room. That's what Coach was known for. He was known for tough love. He had that really deep voice, and I think many would say Coach Mize was the backbone of the program. And you're talking about from the 70s, from the 80s, in the 90s when RFA was a powerhouse.
Right.
Coach played at Maryland, was an All-American at Maryland, got drafted by the Jets. Unfortunately had an injury with the Jets. I think it was a torn bicep that shortened Coach's career. And then, his two sons, Tommy and Timmy. Tommy's been on my podcast a few times. Tommy's called the show in here. Tommy played in the pros, strength coach as well. Timmy was a heck of a player at Ithaca. He had a great career here at Rome. And then Coach Mize's grandson is playing for Iowa.
Right.
And I think he's the backup center as a redshirt. I think he's a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore. But,
one of the funny stories for me was I had Coach Mize for gym class just about every year, and he was tough on all of us, even athletes, non-athletes. But I remember at the old RFA, and you guys don't remember the old RFA like I do, where the gym was where Stadium Support is now,
yep.
Where the main gym is when you go out the hallway. It used to be a long hallway. And then if you make a left, you'd go towards kind of like the cafeteria and the old, what they used to call it, the den, or whatever they used to sell clothes and stuff. I don't remember, a bookstore.
Night Spot?
Night Spot, yes. So I had lunch right after gym. So probably like 2-3 minutes before the bell rang, we were standing out in the hallway, and I jetted. Coach Mize wasn't out there. I'm like, Coach Mize ain't out here. I'm gonna get out early and do my thing. So we get to practice that day, and he calls me over, and we were scared to death of Coach Mize. When Coach Mize looked at you or called you, and everybody, I think we were more scared than anything, and he pulled me in and he says, "Do you think I didn't see that?" And I said, "What are you talking about, Coach?" He goes, "You left 2 or 3 minutes before the bell rang. You know you were the only one that left early." And he was like, "Winners don't do that. Don't ever let it happen again." But he had that like voice, and I can tell you, I never left 2 or 3 minutes early. But I didn't think he saw me. I'm like,
Right.
Coach ain't gonna see me. But he was always one of the ones in the games where he was on the sideline, and if anybody ever did anything bad, and this is where Coach Mize used to always have the whiteboard on the sideline. He'd call the linemen over, and he was always drawing stuff up. But if I ever did anything wrong, Coach Mize would find me on the sideline because I used to kind of stand by myself, and he'd come over, he'd just put his arm around, and he said, "Just get him the next play. Get him." But he had that voice in him. He had that really deep voice. Nobody wanted to fail Coach Mize. Nobody at all. But it was come the summertime, everybody was in the weight room. Everybody. And I think everybody went to the weight room because if we didn't go to the weight room,
Right.
we didn't want to deal with Coach Mize. But I always said Coach Mize was a gentle giant, just had that really deep voice, would give anything for any kid. And I think a lot of people that knew Coach Mize would say the same thing, heart of gold. Heart of gold, tough love. And I probably would say this, and I've said this numerous times to a lot of people. If you take a lot of those coaches back then, I don't think a lot of those coaches probably would have lasted in today's game just because of how tough they were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we say it all the time, is sometimes you can't get in the kid's face. They'll run back. You're worried about a kid quitting. Those guys didn't care. They weren't scared to pull you by the face mask and get after you and really push you. But that's why I always laugh, because a lot of people say, well, RFA always had these big offensive lines. Now, don't get me wrong.
It's some.
They did have some really big offensive lines in the past. And listen, back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, we didn't lose many games here. But again, it was more in the summertime. It was you go to RFA, you get your workout in. If you didn't get that workout in, you knew you had to deal with Coach Mize.
Right.
But he was the backbone of the program. Him, Coach Bruce, Coach Hoke, Coach Ryan was part of that staff too. Just an all-around great guy. So 315-337-9525. Give us a call. We'll be happy to talk anything with you here this morning. But, guys, let's switch over to some college football. Obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on 5-0 Syracuse against Wagner, but they'll get the bye week. I think it's a perfect time for the bye week.
Yep.
And then I think come Monday morning, Syracuse is going to find themselves probably
Top 20.
Top 20.
Top 20.
And you said that, and I was at a Luke Combs concert last night, and I got to try to show you the picture. But my wife made a couple shirts.
Uh-huh.
She made shirts for all, like, 5-6 of us that went, but my wife, myself, I think one of the other girls that went with us wore the shirt. And it was like I don't know if do you know who Luke Combs is?
Yeah, country singer.
Yeah. So it was like the shirt that had kind of like a hat, and then he's got the real heavy beard, and it was like it said Luke Combs on it, and I'm like, do I really have to wear this freaking shirt? Like, I'm not a huge country guy, but obviously living with my wife. But it was at I think it was the old Pepsi Arena, right? The MVP Arena?
Yeah, the old Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right in Albany?
Didn't they have the first 2 rounds of the tournament there?
Yeah.
Yep. It's not a bad little arena.
No, it's not.
So we were in the second deck, but the seats you were really kind of, crammed in a little bit. But it was fun. It was good to see. But as the concert was going on, I had my phone out, and I was trying to get service because I'm looking at scores. My wife goes, "What are you doing?" I said, I got to check a few scores here, Lindsay. And but I ran into two former players of ours from Waterville. If my dad's listening, I ran into Donnie Marsh, who was our quarterback, and I ran into Matt Scarlett, who played 1 year for us. We used to call him Donnie Digits, but Donnie was an offensive lineman for us. And we had one practice where on the sideline we're just throwing balls, and Donnie was winging it. And I go to my father. I said, "Dad, this kid can wing it. Let's put him at court." Now he wasn't as big as he is now,
right?
But he was a center guard then, and Donnie was probably the best quarterback we ended up having, even at my time at Secoit in Waterville. Donnie was really good at getting the ball out of his hands, but he was a lineman. We converted a lineman
that's crazy
to a good quarterback for us. But I saw those two last night, and I walk into this bar, and they said, "Hey, Coach." So, of course, you hear Coach. Everybody,
Yep.
I looked, and I'm like, oh, my God. And they're drinking a beer. And last time I saw these guys, they weren't of age. So I'm like, oh, you guys are making me feel really old. They're both married, but it was good to see those guys. But anyways, the reason why I was bringing that up, because I was looking at the article this morning on the Syracuse game. There was nobody at that game.
There was no one there.
I mean, it was Wagner. I don't think people knew it was going to be a horrible game to go watch.
I got a picture.
You got a picture of the stadium? Oh, wow, it was empty.
There's two people in the top.
It's like
deck.
a high school game.
Yeah. It's like when the high school game goes there.
Wow. Wow, it was empty.
That's crazy.
But let me just run through some scores. There were some good games last night. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of the night games. But I'll start, as I always do, with the Patriot League. Fordham, I told you guys, they have a really good offense. I just don't know if they can stop anybody. Yeah. But Fordham beat Georgetown 59-38. That was family weekend at Jack Coffee. Lafayette beat Bucknell 24-14. Holy Cross stays unbeaten as well. They beat Harvard 30-21. Colgate falls to Cornell, but now they'll get back in the Patriot League play next week. They fell 34-31, and Monmouth beat Lehigh 35-7. Some top 25 scores from yesterday. As I said, some good games, and we'll talk about some of them. Washington got beat to UCLA. I did not see that game coming. I had bet Washington. I thought they were going to UCLA and hammer UCLA.
And they were down big, too.
I did not think UCLA was good.
No, me neither. But UCLA 40-32. Missouri gave Georgia all they could handle yesterday, 26-22. Georgia scored late. They scored 2 touchdowns late in that game. They win 26-22. Bama wins, but really Bama loses. They're going to lose Bryce Young, the Heisman candidate, the Heisman winner from last year, a separated shoulder. I don't know how they say he's day to day.
I don't know. Let me do some research here, see what they say.
Backup?
I don't know, but I don't know if they'll lose much. He's probably another 5-star kid.
I'm sure, yeah.
But they win 49-26. Ohio State beat Rutgers 49-10. Greg Schiano and Ryan Day got into it at the end of the game. If you guys did not see it. So it was 49-10 or 42-10.
49-10.
49-10. And Ohio State was set to punt it. And they got one of those rugby kickers.
Mm-hmm.
And he faked it.
Yes.
So as he was running, he was coming out of bounds. One of the Rutgers guys blew him up. Which I would have blew him up, too.
Absolutely.
Blew him up on the sideline. And Ryan Day and Greg Schiano, who, if people are listening, remember.
Schiano ran from the other sideline.
We're on the same staff at Ohio State together with Urban Meyer. Schiano was the defensive coordinator. And I still think he's doing a good job at Rutgers. I still think they're much better than what they were years ago. Yeah. But they had some choice words for each other at the end of that game. Michigan, we'll talk a little bit about them. They win 27-14. Still not really challenged in that game, but I'll tell you, the offense hasn't looked great.
No.
The run game's looked good. Mm-hmm. McCarthy's kind of managed the game. Really not making any mistakes, but they win. A win's a win. So they were 0-5 at Iowa when they've been ranked in the top 5. So Michigan gets a good road win. NC State falls to Clemson 30-20. I don't think that game was really as close to the score. No. North Carolina State scored in the fourth quarter, 30-20. We'll talk about that game. USC 42-25 over Arizona State. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin 5-0. They'll move into the top 10. They beat a really good Kentucky team, 22-19. And that guy, Mike Gundy, who I feel like we talk about all the time. Every year I feel like he's 5-0, 6-0. Well, they beat Baylor at Baylor, 36-25. Penn State kind of sluggish win at home yesterday against Northwestern, 17-7. Utah hammers Oregon State, 42-16. Cody, your Ducks, 45-27 over Stanford. I want to know when the Wednesday heat get turned up on this guy.
It's got to happen.
It has to.
And that game was not as close as said either. We were 31-3 at halftime. So.
Yep. Mississippi State. How about Mike Leach hammers Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M? I know we're going to start to talk because they got a big one this week. A&M against Bama, 42-24. Yeah. Brent Venables. This game was never close.
No.
55-24 TCU, and TCU will probably get ranked as well.
Sure. I gotta imagine they're going to have a huge jump here.
And I know you're going to say Purdue. That's a much better Purdue team.
That's a better Purdue team than people think.
Well, the one thing I didn't really know, but Ibrahim, the back, didn't play for. I don't know, was he hurt or something? Ibrahim.
He was banged up,
so he didn't play. 20-10, they lose. And I'm telling you, it's a better Wake Forest than what people think, too.
Yeah,
they beat Florida State 31-21. That game wasn't really close for a little bit of time. And I think Florida State's got a big one this coming week. Georgia Tech goes in and beats Pittsburgh 26-21. Kansas State, how about Adrian, Gonzalez, the old quarterback? Oh, Martinez. From Nebraska. He's playing really well over at Kansas State.
Yep.
37-28. And then Utica College. How about Utica? Well, Utica University. Yep. They got another win yesterday. They beat Hartwick.
They got votes for the rankings last week. So.
Yeah, they're up to 5-0, but they're going to get a couple good tests now. They'll get Brockport. Yeah. They'll play Cortland State, who's always
Cortland undefeated.
Your Cortland.
It's
team.
Cortland played their closest game of the year. Was 21-point victory.
Who'd they meet?
Morrisville.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking Ithaca on that game this year.
Yeah, well, mute his mic, please. Bryce Young's injury, I got a little update. It was a AC joint in the shoulder, and Nick Saban said after the game, he's okay. He doesn't have a serious injury. We didn't think he could go back in the game today because I didn't think he had much steam throwing the ball. He's had these injuries before, and he's responded pretty well, so we'll see how it goes. Take it day by day.
It's tough to play with an AC joint in your shoulder when you got to throw the football up. Some high school scores from Friday. CNS beat Henniger 44-22. Proctor with a big win over Liverpool 32-20. West Jenny beat ESM 27-0. Whitesboro beat New Hartford. That's a big game, 38-13. CBA beat Baldwinsville 29-8. Elmira beat RFA 62-28. That game was right here at Rome Free Academy on Friday night for homecoming. Watertown beat Ithaca 24-6. Chittenango beat Cortland 31-0. Indian River 22-20 over CVA. Solvay beat Skinny Atlas 35-21. Mount Markham 47-0 over Herkimer. Beaver River 14-8 over Onondaga. Sandy Creek, as the stat man says, where seasons go to die. They beat Cato Meridian 24-22. Port Byron over Jordan Elbridge 41-18. Mexico over Oswego 16-14. FM over Corcoran 48-26. Homer over Institute of Technology 41-21. Oneida over South Jeff 35-8. Bishop Ludden 41-0 over Pags' alma mater Notre Dame. Marcellus over Canastota 27-8. VVS over Lowville 32-22. South Louis over Thousand Islands. Frankfort Schuyler over West Canada 46-34. And Penfield over Central Square 26-8. Games on Saturday. Morrisville Eaton beat Bishop Grimes 52-12. Phoenix over Hannibal. Adirondack beat Messina 50-7. General Brown beat Westmoreland Oriskany 63-0. Pulaski over APW 23-8. Caz over Clinton 39-10. Cooperstown over Sequoia Valley 26-0. And Helen Patton continues their unbeaten. They beat Southern Hills 26-20. So full slate of high school football. So guys, let's go back into some of these top 25 games. I need the games from yesterday. Let's start with that NC State Clemson game. Nick, you talked about it before we even got on the air when we did our picks and stuff before the season started. How well can NC State handle the hype coming in being a preseason and in the top 10. Now, I'm not taking anything away. This is their first loss. They still can potentially run the table, but they were never really even in this game against Clemson.
No, it was always a 2-score game, and I thought Clemson, despite the fact it was a 10-point game throughout, and Clemson was in full control. I mean, it wasn't like they were threatening at all. They hung around, they made the game close, but DJ's starting to play well.
Yeah.
He's starting to play well, and it's making Clemson a scary team. If he can figure things out and live up to the hype that he came in with, Clemson, they could be in that playoff and give somebody a battle. That's for sure.
I know people are saying that Clemson front was a really good front. I still don't think Clemson's defense has played the way that they're capable, and I think with the expectations that many thought, I think it's a really good sign that DJ and that offense are starting to get things going. I still think that, they're probably the team to come out of that side, but we'll see what happens the rest of the way. A lot of people think that Clemson team was overrated to start the year in the preseason top 5, but we'll see what happens there. I was really impressed with Ole Miss. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. There's one thing I will say is that I think there's some serious steam that there's a really good chance Lane Kiffin gets to either the Auburn job when Auburn fires Brian Harsin, or I think there's really some rumblings with him with that Nebraska job.
I don't know how much better of a job either of those are.
Agreed.
Right now he's at Ole Miss, and they're winning games. They're a top 15 team every season.
I think if he goes in Nebraska, I think he's got a really good shot because I think the alum will get behind him there. What's really disappointing was if you guys saw the previous week for Ole Miss, there was nobody at the game.
Yeah, I know.
And he came right out in his press conference and as he does, called out the students and called out the fans, but they've been playing good football since he's been there.
And the thing with Lane Kiffin, and you remember he's got that relationship with Saban. He's one of the few teams that play Alabama close and can score on Alabama. You remember the game where he put up 50 points and they lost, but I mean that was like the turning point for Alabama. Was like, all right, we got to change things up.
Well, and here's the other question. When you're saying it's not as good as a job, I mean, I think right now on paper, Ole Miss is a better job. But if you want to talk tradition and history, Nebraska's a better job historically than I think Ole Miss.
Depends how he's looking at it.
But not now on paper. I mean, Ole Miss is a better program. But Ole Miss, if you guys remember for years, was not very good.
Right.
And Lane Kiffin came in. And now I like the Nick Saban ties because here's the other thing I would say. How about you go take the Auburn job?
I was going to say that Auburn job with him and Saban going at it end of the year.
Right there. I'd like to see. I mean, I don't know if he'll stick around.
I think he stays.
Do you?
I think he's got weapons there. I think he's getting money right now because they're winning.
Yep.
And I think the fact that he is got that personality where he says what's on his mind, people like that.
Well, and remember, I mean, he lost Matt Corral, the quarterback from last year. They lost a lot of talent, and here he is at 5-0.
Yeah.
And most people would think Lane Kiffin's that let's throw the ball all over the field. This year he's got a run game. He's running the football better this year than he has probably in his whole career as an offensive coordinator / coach. But well, listen, we're going to take a short break. We'll send you the news when we come back. More college football and more right here on the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. We'll be right back.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-277-6322. 800-277-6322. That's 800-277-6322. Call now. 800-277-6322.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage.
Talk Radio 1450.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Panic after police fired tear gas at an Indonesian soccer match to drive away rampaging fans last night has left at least 174 people dead. Most of them were trampled upon or suffocated. It's one of the deadliest sports events in world history. Attention immediately is focusing on police use of tear gas, which is banned at soccer stadiums by the governing body of soccer, FIFA. Russia has attacked the Ukrainian president's hometown with suicide drones, and Ukraine is pushing ahead with its counteroffensive that has embarrassed the Kremlin, Ukraine taking back control of a strategic eastern city, Lima. And rescuers continue to evacuate survivors of Hurricane Ian off the coast of Florida on barrier islands. Hundreds of thousands of people are also still in the dark. The death toll from the big storm in Florida stands at 47. This is SRN News.
From Kingstone Studios, no vacancy, an incredible true story comes to Salem now.
Now they want to purchase a motel and turn it into a shelter for homeless families.
A demoted journalist, a recovering addict, and a pastor fighting for the homeless find themselves at the end of hope.
I got 45 signatures right here, Mayor, against this proposal from my neighborhood. Let's stop this!
It's like the grapes of wrath. Starring T.C. Stallings, Sean Young, and Dean Cain.
Feed the hungry and house the homeless. That's what we're supposed to do. It means you have tenants.
I know.
You're going to have them leave today, or I'm going to terminate your lease.
You didn't want to do this piece.
Things change. You have to run it tomorrow.
No, not a chance.
The nicest thing anybody ever done for me.
Streaming now. Find it at salemnow.com.
Welcome to Hope.
The current temperature, 51 degrees.
SRN Sports, I'm Ron DeRockstra. Some college football highlights. Jeff Sims passed for a touchdown, ran for another, and Georgia Tech made interim head coach Brent Key a winner in his debut, stunning number 24 Pittsburgh 26-21. 5 days after Key was promoted to replace Jeff Collins, Georgia Tech took advantage of some sloppy play by the defending ACC champions to beat an FBS opponent for the first time in nearly a year. John Emery Jr. rushed for a tackle-breaking 20-yard touchdown, and Greg Brooks Jr. had a late interception to help LSU complete a 21-17 come-from-behind win over Auburn. Hudson Card passed for 3 touchdowns to lead Texas to a 38-20 win over West Virginia. And Ben Bryant threw 2 touchdown passes. Cincinnati added 2 other scores on 4th down, and the 2-time defending American Athletic Conference champion Bearcats opened league play with a 31-21 win over Tulsa. This is SRN Sports. Close but no cigar in Arlington, Texas last night. Jose Suarez of the Angels lost a perfect game in the 7th inning when Rangers' Marcus Semien led off with a single. Suarez ran into more trouble in the inning when Nathaniel Lowe hit a 2-run homer to right field, and that gave the Rangers a 2-1 lead. The Venezuelan left-hander threw 77 pitches, struck out 5 in the retiring his first 18 batters. There hasn't been a perfect game in the majors since Seattle's King Felix Hernandez on August 5th of 2012 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Devin Williams blew a 9th-inning lead, and the Brewers squandered a great opportunity to pull even in the race for the final National League playoff spot, losing to the Marlins 4-3. And there was panic at an Indonesian soccer match after police fired tear gas to stop brawls that left 174 people dead, mostly trampled to death. With SRN Sports.
This Atmos weather report is being brought to you by Summit Technology Group. Summit Technology Group provides advanced technical solutions to the ever-evolving broadcast industry. More information is available online at summittechgroup.com.
Your area conditions. Currently 48 degrees in Rome. Here is your WKAL 1450 AM, 103.3 FM Utica Rome Metro weather forecast for Sunday, the 2nd day of October. I'm meteorologist Charles Dixon. Mostly clear in Rome, and good morning to listeners in Oneida, where it is currently mostly clear and 48 degrees. Getting down to 33 overnight tonight. Monday's high will be in the low 60s. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures in the mid-60s on Tuesday. Sunny times of clouds and sun. I'm meteorologist Charles Dixon on 1450 AM 103.3 FM. WKAL, more stimulating talk radio.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-607-0665. 800-607-0665. 800-607-0665. That's 800-607-0665.
This is Coach Big C, and you're listening to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch on WKAL 1450.
Welcome back to the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Thanks for making us part of your Sunday morning here on the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Cody and Coach Medicis in here today. Pags and the Stat Man are out. They'll be back with us next Sunday. I will say this, yesterday the drive to Albany was a long drive coming home. I was half asleep. But going down, you see all the leaves changing, and you're like, that's the weather that I like.
Yeah, it's fall.
That's what I like.
It's fall football season.
It's fall football season, and I'm pumped up as much as I don't want to go watch Ohio State play. I'm pumped up to go down and watch Penn State, Ohio State in a few weeks, sit in front of 100,000 people. Hopefully it's not pouring rain at the game, but excited for that. And but it's nice. It's nice to see the leaves changing. Football's in the air, but it's hard to believe when you look, guys. You're 5 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You know, the season's half over already, and I feel like it just started. And the next thing you know, we're sitting here talking about March Madness. We're talking hoops with you.
Yep.
It's like, don't wish it away, but man, it goes really fast. So let's continue on the football way here. And then the second part of the show is really when we'll talk some NFL. We'll talk some Bills here with Coach. And I'm sure we'll give a couple of predictions too on some of the games today. But I want to dive in a little bit on some of these games from yesterday. And I want to talk about Mike Gundy, because I feel like, and I said this when we were on the air earlier, I feel like Oklahoma State's one of those programs where Mike Gundy gets mentioned for a lot of these big jobs too. Oklahoma State, I think, is a big job.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, I think he's kind of turned it into a program where, you know, they win 9 or 10 games every year. They're right there in the hunt. It seems like Oklahoma's come down to reality. And I think Oklahoma just had the preseason hype because Venables going there. They had some recruits. I think Oklahoma State will beat them when they play. And I think Texas has a legit shot to beat them in the Red Rivalry next week. But how come Mike Gundy? I mean, do you ever see Mike Gundy leaving?
No.
You think he's there for life?
I think he's there as long as he wants to be there.
I mean, he's done a really good job there. I think what people don't remember about this is when he got that job, they struggled for a little bit out of the gate. And we always talk about some of the schools that have patience. Coach K's a prime example. When he got the Duke job, they weren't very good. Oklahoma State had some down years.
Yeah, there was a great, somebody put a post up on Facebook, and it was like, Dabo, it took 4 years to win 10 games. Mike Gundy took 6 years to win 10 games. So be patient.
Yeah.
Trust the process.
Exactly. But I'm a huge Mike Gundy fan. I hope they finish strong in the Big 12. I'd love to see them make a push late in the year and see if they're talking playoffs. Utah still looks really good.
Yep.
out your way there in the Pac-12.
I'm happy Oregon, all of those good teams, we get them at home this year, which is nice.
Well, I don't want to say this because I don't want to, boost your ego a little bit. Oregon may not be as bad as what people think they are.
Yeah.
If you remember, they played Georgia week 1, and Georgia obviously was the top team for a reason. And I still think Georgia's going to be there in the end. I mean, they had a bad game and still found a way to come back and win. But I think Oregon's a team. I mean, listen, USC, Utah, out there. So, I mean, that Pac-12 is going to be fun to watch down the stretch. I want to see what happens with USC. I mean, offensively, they're scoring.
People aren't talking about USC, though. They
No?
talk about Oregon, and everybody hyped up Utah before the year, and they had that early loss. But, I mean, USC, they struggled a little bit last week, but they're still winning. They're still, top 7 team right now?
Yeah.
I mean, when you play Georgia week 1 with a new coach in Georgia, that's a tough
Yeah,
game.
but there's a difference between losing to Georgia and absolutely getting embarrassed by Georgia, because that was embarrassing what happened with Oregon.
It was,
they couldn't tackle. They did nothing right. And yes, Georgia's very good, but Georgia just played Missouri to a 4-point game. Missouri's terrible.
Yeah, but we bounced back.
Let me go. I think this is Carl Manganero calling. Let me see if I can get him on the line here. Hey, Coach, you're on the air. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. What's going on this morning? You got a good story for us?
Oh, it involves Coach Mize, yes, always. He was that kind of guy that, people would always say they feared him, but I think they just didn't want to let him down. That's one of the things, that so much respect they had for him. So I think that's, part of the, how most people felt about him. But I still remember my junior year, I coming down the hall into the boys' gym, and I hear my name called by him, so of course you go right to him. And he asked me, how much you weigh? And I said, 165. And he's like, all right, tomorrow, 2:30 wrestling practice. And of course, it's Coach Mize, so you go. 2 days later, he put me in a match. And, obviously it didn't come out that good. And I see him 10, 15 years down the road, and it's the first thing he'll say to me. Remember when I put you in the wrestling match after 2 practices? He goes, that would get me fired today.
It definitely would have, that's for sure.
Yeah. But you did it because, he was the kind of coach you wanted to do anything for. And, I've seen him throughout the years, and, he always talks about, he'll first always ask about the family, and that's, because he was a big family man, and then he'd get into the old days about, remember when this happened or whatever happened to this kid, and, it was just always great to have a conversation with him. Then I saw him probably about a year ago when I was making, when we were doing the interview with Tom Jr. So I went over to their house and, he was bringing me pictures of Tom when he was younger, and, and just and when I talked to Mrs. Mize about the video afterwards, basically said, that he just had a smile on his face the entire time watching that video. And that's just, the kind of father he was, to him, and grandfather and everything else. So just a great man, and, basically the kind of guy that you would do anything for.
Yeah, he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore for coaches, and not only in Rome, but I think in this area itself. I used to always say he was just a gentle giant. You were scared of him, but you respected the hell out of him. And he cared about everybody.
And he's the kind of guy. Him and Mrs. Mize, I never would call by their first name, although they told me to a couple times. I was like, no.
Yep.
You're Coach Mize, you're Mrs. Mize, and that's the way it's always be. And, yeah, just a great guy.
Yeah, that's for sure, and he'll be missed. But
yes, hopefully you get some good calls. I got to turn on the radio now. That I didn't want to have it on when I called.
No, we appreciate it, Coach. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Bye.
Yeah, let me say I did that interview with Myslinski Jr. That was it was a really awesome thing to be able to talk to somebody who played in the NFL, and he told me stories about his dad too.
Yep.
So it was
a cool experience. And his son, because he was on with me too, and when you talk to him, it's like talking to his dad. Same voice, same everything.
Well, he came up to RFA last year, at one point with his son. And he's like, hey, where's the weight room? And this was during school hours. And we're like, yeah, it's back here.
Coach Mize or his son?
His son.
Oh, okay.
And then the grandson, Mike, was there. Kid's a monster.
Oh, yeah.
He was a monster. But he's like, this weight room's awful. We need some upgrades here. Like, this is not good.
Yeah. And Tommy, his son, was a hell of a player at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then was drafted, played with the Steelers primarily, but had a good career in the NFL.
Yep.
And he's been a strength coach in the NFL for a long time with the Jags.
And we coached against Tim with lacrosse.
Oh, yeah.
Tim coaches. He was coaching at Frontier. He's now at Claremont. I think he switched schools, but we went out and played his daughter's team, and then they came out here the next year, and it was cool because he got to stay at his parents' house and see the family. And
I think it's Tim's daughter is a really good either lacrosse player and field hockey player.
She's a really good athlete.
He was telling me one of them, it was the social media coordinator for the Jaguars, one of his daughters.
Yeah. That's I think that's Tommy's oldest daughter.
Yep.
And if you guys remember, during COVID, he was doing videos online.
We used those for phys ed class.
Yeah.
With him and his daughter.
Yep. But no, he was first class, and Miss Mize is too. And Miss Mize, hopefully, if you're out there listening, hopefully we get some more callers. But as we said, Coach touched so many lives out there. Whether you played for him, or whether you even had him in gym class, just a passing through conversation, Coach was always there for everybody. So thanks, Carl, for calling in. So let's keep it locked here on some college football. I want to talk about another coach, another favorite of mine, Mike Leach.
I love Mike Leach.
Mike Leach, Mississippi State's 4-1. They had a big win over Texas A&M. And you're watching the game, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've got
touchdown Vikings.
Vikings score.
I've got Delvin Cook, and they throw it to Alexander Madison. Sitting on my bench.
I got the Vikes in my pick'em. That game's down in London, right?
It's in London right now. Yep.
You like those overseas games like that?
I hate it.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan, but at the same time, I mean, we're watching football at 9:30. Like normally, it's like, let's get through the day. You got to wait till 1 o'clock. We're sitting here watching a game.
Can you imagine from a player?
Oh yeah, that stinks.
Early they got to be up to go play football.
Yeah, absolutely, that stinks.
But the nice thing is, like the Giants play at 9:30 next week. I can get all my anger out in the beginning of the day, and then just be positive, the rest of the day.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sold. I say this about the Giants, and we'll talk more NFL the second hour, is I think defensively they're a lot better than what they've been in the past.
Yeah.
But offensively they stink.
They haven't. Do you see the grades on their offensive line? Evan Neal allowed 8 pressures.
Well, the offensive line's been bad for years.
Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people, respect Eli Manning whether you like him or dislike him, because Eli ran for his life and took a pounding in New York. And now you're seeing, and I'm not going to put it all on Daniel Jones, because I think it's like any quarterback in the NFL, any quarterback in college or high school. If you're under pressure every time you drop back to throw the football,
he stinks.
Well, I know he does, but put him on. As you were just saying with some high school kids, right? You put a kid behind a good offensive line. Yes. There's not a quarterback in the NFL that can't make certain throws.
Yeah. Well,
all those guys have the arm strength to make the throws.
He got pressured more last week in a single game than any quarterback in the last 5 years.
Here's what I'm going to say. Again, you have the Bills guys that went over and took over in New York. And if you remember the first year of Buffalo, it was awful. Quarterbacks were running for their lives. And the first thing they did was year one, they got offensive linemen. They went out, they paid Mitch Morse. Got him as a center, the leader up front, and then built around him. I would expect the Giants not to get weapons this year. They're going to get linemen, and they're going to build something. So if you do keep Saquon, because, again, you might trade him and get another draft pick, and then there's another lineman you're bringing in. But, if you keep him.
I mean, we tried this year. We drafted Evan Neal, which he's a rookie. He gets a break. I hope he'll end up being good, probably. We signed the guy Glowinski from the Colts. Feliciano's terrible.
Well, Jones is out at the end of it. He's not with the Giants next year.
Yes.
No.
The question is going to be
a backup somewhere.
Who do you go get?
The problem is they keep winning. I mean, the more you win, you're losing out on.
Yeah.
There's some good quarterback prospects coming out.
I mean, if we win, if we keep winning, they're not going to get rid of Jones. If we
yes,
win,
they are.
You think this college class of quarterbacks is a good class? It's probably better than what it's been in the past.
I think this one kind of rivals the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar. I think it's deep like that. I don't know if there's any that are as good as like Lamar or Josh Allen right now, but I think it's deep enough where you could have 4 or 5 first-round draft picks.
It's a lot of guys that scare me where I think they could be busts. Like, that's how I look at it. Like,
well, the one I'm not sold on in college, I just haven't seen enough of him, is Will Levis, the quarterback at Kentucky.
I like him the most.
They're saying he's probably going to be a top 10 pick, and I don't know. I don't know enough about him. I haven't seen much of him yet this year, but I'm not 100% sold on him.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's got Kentucky as one of the better teams in the country.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job. You know, you look at it, and there's a lot of, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, the Richardson kid from Florida. I mean, there's some good quarterbacks, but again, it's like high risk, high reward. The Richardson kid has so much potential, but it's kind of like you're drafting Justin Fields again, where he's
Malik Willis.
Yeah, he's struggling right now. He put up the worst quarterback rating last week for the Bears in a win.
The Giants aren't in a position to draft somebody that you need, that like you're praying, like you need to take somebody that you actually think is ready for the NFL right away. You know.
See, I'm not 100%, and I know Nick from C-Bus maybe this week will get mad at me. I'm not sold at C.J. Stroud. The Bryce Youngs are NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, could they sit in the pocket and throw it? I mean, Lamar Jackson's a special talent, and I think Lamar Jackson over the years has developed more as a passer. But I also think Lamar Jackson's in a really good system in Baltimore where Harbaugh has developed that offense around him. But I don't know. Could they sit in the pocket?
But you also got to remember about Lamar. If he got drafted early in the draft, if he was the second pick like Darnold or third pick like Darnold, he's playing for the Jets.
Oh, absolutely.
He dropped all the way to 27, and he gets in with a team that's 100%. A playoff team. So then they make the move, and you're playing with a roster that's made to win right now. And I think that's the issue is a lot of these quarterbacks, they're expected to come in and win right away, and those teams are awful. So then you look at and you say, what is Trevor Lawrence doing with Jacksonville? Everybody talked, he's not living up to the hype. The dude's getting better every year.
He played for Urban Meyer his rookie year. Like, what do you expect? It's hard.
Well, I mean, and take Urban Meyer out of the equation here. There hasn't been many first-year quarterbacks in the NFL to have success.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're 100% right. I mean, when you watch Jacksonville, and I can't even believe I would say this, they look pretty good.
I'm thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
And they're playing without, Etienne didn't play all of last year, and he's barely playing now because James Robinson is having a great year so far.
And that division is not good. They could win that division if they win 9-10 games.
Well, there are some good games today. The Bills and Ravens will play at 1 o'clock. They're the early game. You got the Browns and Falcons today. The Commanders, I still can't get over saying that. And the Cowboys. Seahawks and Lions. Titans and Colts should be a good game. This is why I can't bet the NFL.
Yes.
I don't bet any spreads. I usually bet the over or under in these games. Like tonight I'll probably bet one of the two. How does the Colts beat Kansas City?
Because the Colts have underperformed, and they have a new quarterback. So you figure you have a new quarterback, it's going to take him a couple games to get going. It's going to take a couple games for, the play calling to come in. Breaking news, ESPN has ranked Syracuse 24th in this week's poll.
Yeah?
Just came out.
It was power rankings, isn't it?
Yes. But yeah, it's going to take them a little while to get used to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's got to know who to trust, who not to, what to call. So I'm not surprised that they're, I thought the Colts had a shot to be the dark horse in the AFC.
Yeah,
I think you have the best running back in the league, arguably. You have a veteran quarterback that can make all the reads and all the throws. And you have a underrated wide receiver in Pittman on top of, great tight ends and arguably the best line in football.
Yeah, Pittman's been solid. His main problem is injuries. You got to stay away.
I think it's a really big game for the Titans because if the Titans lose this game, they're going to fall to 1-3. I think the Colts the last couple years, people said good offensive line, good run game. They just need a quarterback that can come in. I think Matt Ryan's that guy. And I think the Colts showed last week they can be a really scary team. But I think Titans need this game a lot more than the Colts.
I think the Titans are in a really tough position because they have Derrick Henry in the prime of his career and everybody else is really old or they lost a lot of people because of salary cap reasons. Yeah. And there's no direction at that point. So what do you do with Ryan Tannehill? What do you do with Malik Willis? Do you go to him just to try to get some energy? Do you go into a rebuild and you trade Derrick Henry and try to get some more draft picks to help with a rebuild? Like there's that they're in a really tough spot because last year they were the 1 seed in the AFC and now it's what direction are we going? Because we have no money and we have a young quarterback that everybody kind of wants to see. And we're struggling.
Well, I feel like the NFL is always like you get some teams that are really good for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then they kind of come down to reality a little bit. And I think Tennessee's one of them. And I like Mike Vrabel, even though he's an Ohio State guy.
I love Mike Vrabel.
I do like Mike Vrabel as a
line
coach.
Is bad.
But I think it makes you appreciate the teams that are good for. I mean, I can't stand the Patriots, but you got to respect what they've done because they've been good for 20-something years without a rebuild.
Yeah. And they've won with bad teams, too. That's what makes it even more important.
Yeah, but it goes back to show if you have a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, you can consistently win.
And a great coach. Yeah.
Yes.
So other games today, too, you got the Bears and Giants. You know, Justin Fields is another one of those guys. The Bears are 2-1. The Giants are 2-1. The Giants are favored by 3 in this game.
The weather in that one, it's supposed to be downpouring the whole game,
So we'll see if the Giants can move to 3-1 coming off that loss Monday night, which you were at that game. How was the atmosphere? Did you guys come back that night?
The next morning.
Oh, you did?
The atmosphere was crazy. I mean, sold out. Everybody was going nuts. Everybody got these towels. You're waving every play, yelling at Cowboys fans in the stands, getting them kicked out.
How were the seats? You have good seats?
Yeah, 200 level in the end zone.
So good. Good. Another one, the Jags-Eagles. Say a lot of people have the Eagles picked to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I'm not sold on them just yet. I think they're playing much better. I think Jalen Hurts is playing really well. But, again, here come the Jaguars playing pretty good football.
Jacksonville goes into Philly and wins today.
Well, I think, it
could happen.
Going back to what you said on, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, I think Jalen Hurts is a great example that you don't have to be a sit-in-the-pocket type passer. I mean, if they can move you around and get you in spots where you can use your legs, I think you can be a successful NFL quarterback.
And get him. They got him weapons and an O-line too.
Hold on, we got to go right to the phone lines. Let's pick this one up. You're on the line with Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are we doing?
Good. This is Jeff Simon.
Hey, Jeff. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you, Rock? How's everything going?
Not too bad. What's going on?
Well, I wanted to contribute to the conversation about Coach Mark.
Absolutely.
So are we on the air?
Yep, you're on, my friend.
Well, I played for Coach Mize for 3 years from 1982 through 1984, and I have to say, first of all, I want to extend my condolences to the Mizlinski family. Coach Mize is a terrific role model, wonderful gentleman, and I think those of us who played for him still 40 years later, 35 years later, we can still hear his booming voice when we have a difficult time or something that we need to do. Coach Mize motivated us. He helped us not only to be successful football players, but he also helped us to be successful human beings. And I just wanted, on behalf of myself and my family, to express my gratitude, the impact that Coach Mize had on me, on my brothers as well. My brother-in-law also played, James Morocco, for Coach Mize, and I just wanted to let the family know that Coach Mize had a tremendous impact on my life.
No, amen, Jeff. Amen to that, and I hope you're doing well, and I appreciate you calling in.
Very good. Thanks, Rock.
Thank you. Just in the nick of time, that was Jeff Simons with some kind words. Thanks, Jeff, for calling in and listening here this morning. But we're going to take a break, send you the news. When we come back, more NFL, more college, and we'll talk to the RFA head coach, Jake DeCola, at about 10 after the hour. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch right here on WKAL Talk Radio 1450. Step up to the plate and drive a great deal off the lot today at Nye Automotive Group in Oneida and Rome.
Talk about a great team. This level of care really puts Nye Automotive Group ahead.
Yes, Nye Automotive Group's been on a roll with game-winning pricing all season long on an all-star lineup of Ford, Toyota, Scion, Buick, GMC, and Volkswagen vehicles.
Looks like we're in for a great season, folks. It's time to play ball.
Visit Nye Automotive Group in Oneida and Rome or online at nyeauto.com and come see why.
It's gotta be Nye.
Hey everybody, this is the coach from the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. Join myself, Pete Pagsman Pagliaro, the coach Nick Medicis, and the stat man Eric Coleman on our new day as we move to Sundays from 9 to 11 on WKAL Talk Radio 1450 and 103.3
WKAL Talk Radio 1450 AM 103.3 FM WKAL Rome, Utica, Syracuse, New York.
The time is